morning, Acadiana. It is Thursday, February 25th, 2021, and you're listening to Local News Live, a production of AOC Community Media in partnership with the Acadiana Advocate. Their team of journalists print the stories that are important to our community and our state, and we are happy to read you some of those stories. You can hear Local News Live Monday through Friday between 9 a.m. and 10 a.m. on AOC 1, the AOC Community Media channel on YouTube, and on Cypress Street Radio at aocinc.org/CS Radio. You can find the print versions of these stories and more at theadvocate.com. We couldn't bring you this community service without the generosity of our volunteer newsreaders. Today, we're joined again by Daniel Rayburn. Good morning, Daniel.
Good morning.
Thank you for being here to read the news. I'm going to go listen on Cypress Street.
Thanks, Matt. Good morning, Acadiana. It is my pleasure, as always, to be here with you once again, bringing you the news. We have quite a few stories to look at this morning, so we're going to dive right in to our headlines from across the Acadiana area to begin with. And looking at our first, it reads, Lafayette St. Landry bars eligible for limited service. Acadiana positivity rates and hospitalizations down. This is written by Ben Myers. Bars in Lafayette and St. Landry parishes are eligible for limited reopening after those parishes posted positivity rates below 5% for 2 straight weeks, according to the state's weekly coronavirus report on Wednesday. Positivity and hospitalizations in the 7-parish Acadiana region have returned to levels last seen in October, before a 4-month surge that started around Halloween. New cases and tests both continued to decline through February 17th, with new cases dropping at a faster rate than tests. Bars can reopen for indoor service at 25% occupancy in parishes where positivity is below 5% for 2 weeks in a row. Parishes must formally opt in to trigger the limited opening, and Lafayette Parish Mayor President Josh Guillory on Wednesday notified Governor John Bell Edwards that Lafayette will do so. 3 of the 7 Acadiana parishes have now met that requirement since the fall-winter surge, with Acadia Parish the first to do so. Vermilion Parish may become the next after posting a 4.5% rate in the latest report. Bars will be required to close again if positivity exceeds 5% for 2 straight weeks. Many Lafayette bars have already reopened by obtaining conditional restaurant permits. Not all those that have remained closed will reopen under the limited occupancy requirement. Nighttown on Jefferson Street, for example, will stay closed because the rules only allow for 50 patrons in the bar's 10,000 square foot building, said owner George Favalero. Quote, "We will be anxiously waiting on the ability to entertain our customers when we receive a higher capacity," he said in an email. Acadiana's improving coronavirus metrics may be flattening out, and there are signs the region will settle into a relatively low plateau. The region's 5% positivity rate on February 17th was a notch above the 4.9% recorded a week earlier, ending a 5-week streak of decline. Daily reports during the past week show new cases in Acadiana increasing a bit faster than tests. Over 7 days through February 24th, the proportion of tests resulting in newly reported cases was 3.7%, a slight increase over 3.1% on February 17th. The state reports positivity on a 7-day lag because of volatility in the daily reports. The next positivity report is due on March 3rd. COVID-19 hospitalizations continued significant week-over-week declines through Tuesday, when there were 57 inpatients in Acadiana's hospitals. That marked a 23% reduction from February 16th. But the regional COVID hospital census has remained essentially flat over the past 6 days. Here at the end of the story, they have the latest cases in Louisiana, which includes 367,582 positive cases, along with 8,860 deaths. we will move to our next headline, which reads, Protect the City Panel Membership Finalized. This is written by Claire Taylor. 2 appointments made Tuesday by the Lafayette City Council round out the 7-person Protect the City Committee that will evaluate the city's future as part of the Lafayette Consolidated Government. The City Council selected Stuart Breaux, a former assistant city parish attorney who dealt primarily with planning, development, and code issues, and William Linendecker, a retired educator and former recreation centers manager for LCG, to serve on the council. Each council member also appointed 1 person to the committee. They include Joseph Tagg Catalan, a longtime landman, appointed by District 1 councilperson Pat Lewis. Mark Pope, who worked 27 years in Lafayette Consolidated Government's Environmental Division, appointed by District 2 councilperson Andy Nakwan. And Roddy Bergeron, who works as Chief Operating Officer at Enterprise Data Concepts, appointed by Council Chairperson Liz Hebert. Other committee members include Jan Swift, a former city parish attorney and Deputy Secretary of State who was Executive Director of Upper Lafayette for 10 years, appointed by District 4 councilperson Nanette Cook, and Tina Shelvin Bingham, who worked at the Lafayette Consolidated Government for more than 12 years as an engineering aide and planner, and was appointed by District 5 councilperson Glenn Lazard. The committee is expected to hold its first meeting in March. The ordinance unanimously adopted by the council January 19th created the committee calls for the group to meet as often as needed, but at least every 2nd and 4th Tuesday of the month. The committee will cease to exist when it files a report with the city council or 6 months after committee members are appointed, whichever comes first. The final report, the ordinance states, should address several questions, including how the city council can best protect the city's tax dollars, how the city council can best protect the city-owned Lafayette utility system. Has consolidation lived up to the promises made when voters approved the Home Rule Charter in 1992? How has the city's share of the cost of the Lafayette Consolidated Government changed since consolidation took hold in 1996? And are city tax dollars spent outside the city? Other questions raised in the ordinance that the City Council wants the committee to consider are whether deconsolidation would benefit city residents, taxpayers, and businesses. What are the possible savings to the city if it leaves the consolidated government? And should the city elect its own mayor? Lafayette Consolidated Government was created after the 1992 Home Rule Charter was approved by voters and came into being in 1996. But only the Lafayette city and parish governments are consolidated. 5 smaller municipalities in the parish retained their own mayors and councils. Lafayette did not have a mayor or its own council, instead being served by a city parish council until January 2020. In 2018, voters approved a charter amendment replacing the combined city parish council with separate city and parish councils. But Lafayette still does not have its own mayor. Voters throughout the parish elect a mayor president who serves as Lafayette's mayor and the parish president. After a year of clashing with Mayor President Josh Guillory and his administration, along with the parish council over budget matters and who gets to vote on city funding issues, Lewis, who was council chairperson in 2020, proposed the Protect the City Committee as a possible precursor to appointing a charter commission to consider charter amendments, including deconsolidation. We move to our next headline, which reads, UL System Board to review interim dean appointment. Michael McClure named to lead College of Arts. Michael McClure's appointment as interim dean for the College of the Arts at the University of Louisiana at Lafayette will be considered by the System Board of Supervisors on Thursday. The appointment would be backdated to January 1st and run through August 31st, according to a written request by UL President E. Joseph Savoy. McClure has been the college's associate dean since 2013. He would replace H. Gordon Brooks II, the college's first dean, who retired after 27 years in the position. Brooks was also the longest-serving arts dean in the United States. Jonathan Culp, director of the School of Music and Performing Arts, has been named interim associate dean. The College of Arts enrolls about 1,000 students and is served by 80 faculty members and staff. McClure joined the UL faculty as a distinguished professor in the School of Architecture and Design in 2001. He previously served in a short-term roles on faculties of LSU, Tulane, and Pratt Institute. He earned a bachelor's in architecture from Washington University in St. Louis and a master's at Columbia University. The UL system staff recommended McClure's approval as interim dean. The interim position pays an annual salary of $150,000. With that, we will now take a short break from our headlines for this PSA, which today is brought to us from the Louisiana Investigative Journalism Fund. Investigative reporting is more essential than ever, which is why we've established the Louisiana Investigative Journalism Fund, a non-profit supported by our readers. For more information, please go to investigate.theadvocate.com. And now, we return to our headlines from across the Acadiana area with this. Grand jury indicts Crowley police chief. Broussard facing malfeasance, obstruction charges. And this is written by Katie Gagliano. Crowley police chief Alan James Jimmy Broussard was indicted by a grand jury and arrested Wednesday on several felony offenses, including malfeasance in office and obstruction of justice. Broussard was booked into the Acadia Parish Jail on 3 counts of malfeasance in office, 2 counts of obstruction of justice, and a count of attempted first-degree injury of public records Wednesday, a booking clerk confirmed. She said as of 2:30 p.m., Broussard was no longer in custody. A booking photo was not immediately available. The Acadiana Parish Grand Jury indictment, handed up before Broussard's arrest, said the charges were based on actions from January 1st, 2020 through October 31st. The police chief is accused of intentionally performing duties in an unlawful manner and tampering with evidence, quote, with the specific intent of distorting the results of a criminal investigation or proceeding, the indictment said. Acadiana Parish Sheriff K.P. Gibson confirmed his agency was involved in investigating the allegations against Broussard, but deferred further comment to the district attorney's office. When contacted, 15th Judicial District Attorney Don Landry said he does not comment on active court cases. Broussard declined to speak on the matter when reached by phone and referred questions to his attorney, Bill Goody. Goody said he began work with Broussard while the charges were under investigation, and although he hadn't seen the particulars of the indictment, he said he was confident, quote, he's not guilty of these crimes, and we're going to prevail. I've worked with a lot of chief of police over the last 49 years, and Chief Broussard is one of the few chiefs of police with whom I've dealt who truly cares more about his people, his officers, and his support staff than he does about himself. It's not an ego trip for him. I can't imagine him doing this, not based upon what I've seen professionally with him," Goody said. The Lafayette attorney said he could not comment on the basis for the criminal investigation into his client. Malfeasance in office carries a maximum sentence of 5 years and a fine of $5,000, according to state law. Broussard, as a Peace Officer Standards and Training Certified Law Officer, would also have his post-certification revoked if convicted. First-degree injury of public records carries a maximum sentence of 5 years and a fine of $5,000, while sentencing guidelines for obstruction of justice depend on the severity of the case impeded. Broussard was first elected as police chief in a runoff election in April 2016 to complete Gibson's unexpired term after Gibson was elected as Acadia Parish Sheriff. Broussard was then re-elected in November 2018. His current term is slated to run through 2022, according to the Louisiana Secretary of State's office. The Crowley police chief is the second elected law enforcement official in Acadiana to be arrested this year. New Iberia City Marshal Hayward Tony Migas was arrested February 4th on 8 counts of each of forgery, injuring public records, and malfeasance in office after a state police investigation into allegations he forged people's signatures on court documents, falsely claiming they had been served subpoenas that were never delivered. And now, we will move to a series of crime stories brought to us by the Advocate Crime Blotter. We have a few of those headlines to go through, so we will start with the first, which reads, Man indicted in Moorpark party shootings. A 19-year-old man accused of killing 2 people and wounding 2 others in a shooting at Moorpark in October was indicted by a Lafayette grand jury Wednesday. Jamron Christian McGee of Angie was indicted of 2 counts of first-degree murder in the deaths of 18-year-old Nathaniel Sharpley and 19-year-old Jakiri Javon Clark, and a count of attempted first-degree murder in the shooting of an 18-year-old Opelousas man. The grand jury declined a charge of attempted first-degree murder against McGee in the shooting of a 20-year-old Lafayette woman. A first-degree murder charge carries the potential for the death penalty, but the 15th Judicial District Attorney's Office said it does not intend to seek the death penalty against McGee in a December court filing. His next court appearance is scheduled for March 4th. McGee is accused of shooting the victims during an after-hours teen party in a parking lot on the northern end of Moorpark on October 15th. The chaos of the shooting's aftermath was captured on Facebook Live video by 37-year-old Donnell Lewis, who worked security at nightclubs and was contracted for the event. He estimated around 500 to 600 people attended the party at its height. Lewis told reporters the gunfire erupted as the party was winding down after a Lafayette Police Department officer patrolled the park. The military veteran and former law enforcement officer said the scene was, quote, like hell, as the young partygoers fled in terror and tried to help the injured. One of Lewis's videos showed first responders performing CPR on a man lying on the ground, while bystanders cried nearby. The next crime headline reads, Suspect indicted in fatal October shooting. A Lafayette man was indicted on a murder charge in an October shooting. Samuel Deshawn Shows, 28, was indicted on account of second-degree murder in the shooting death of 35-year-old Loveless Willis on October 13. Willis was found dead inside his residence in the 100 block of North Marigny Circle by Lafayette Parish Sheriff Office deputies responding to the scene. Shows is listed in court documents as living on the same street as Willis. In our next crime headline, Crowley police investigate 2 shootings. The Crowley Police Department was responding to a shooting Tuesday in the 500 block of Avenue A when officers heard another shooting in the 1200 block of West 4th Street a few minutes later. Chief Jimmy Broussard told KATC-TV one person involved in the first shooting was transported to the hospital with injuries that were not life-threatening. The second shooting left a victim in critical condition who had to be airlifted to a regional medical facility. Police are still looking for suspects and do not know the motive of the shooting or if they may be related. And our next headline from the Crime Blotter. Lafayette fire kills puppy, destroys house. The Lafayette Fire Department responded to a house fire Tuesday morning on 14th Street that caused heavy damage to the structure. While all of the occupants were found safely outside, one of the occupants' 3 puppies were found dead inside the home. According to the fire department, firefighters responded at 8:09 a.m. to the fire at 509 14th Street. When first responders arrived on scene, flames had engulfed the rear of the dwelling and were spreading quickly. The fire department said that all the occupants were outside at a neighbor's house. 25 firefighters responded to assist in extinguishing the single-family dwelling, and the fire was brought under control within 10 minutes. However, the home sustained heavy fire damage. The fire department said that firefighters were then informed by the occupants that 3 puppies were inside the dwelling. After searching the home, 2 of the puppies were found alive. The 2 puppies were brought out by fire crews and reunited with the owners. The home was occupied by 4 adults, which includes family members and friends. Fire officials said that one of the occupants was awakened by a noise. He went in the kitchen and noticed that it was on fire. However, there were no smoke alarms in the home. The occupant alerted the other 3 occupants and they all escaped without injury, the fire department notes. The occupants lost everything in the fire, and the American Red Cross was contacted to provide immediate assistance. Fire officials determined the fire originated within an exterior wall near a hot water heater closet. The cause of the fire is under investigation. And now, moving on to our next local headline, it reads, Lafayette Council okays alcohol delivery. The Lafayette City and Parish Councils unanimously approved an ordinance Tuesday that would codify the permitting process for companies to deliver alcohol in the city and parish. The alcohol delivery ordinance allows employees or contractors of delivery companies with alcohol permits to deliver alcohol as long as they are 21 years old and have a bar card. Under the ordinance, only beer, wine, and sparkling wine can be delivered by third-party permit holders from restaurants. It must be sealed in the manufacturer's container. Also, any alcohol delivery order must include food if it's from a restaurant under the terms of the ordinance. The state passed a measure in 2020 that eased Louisiana's alcohol delivery rules, allowing third-party services like Uber Eats, Waiter, and Shipt the ability to deliver beer and wine through contract workers. That was an update to a 2019 bill that legalized alcohol delivery by businesses like grocery stores, restaurants, and liquor stores, but only if they did so with their own employees. That, we will take another step away from the headlines to bring you our Today in History, famous birthdays, and the daily horoscope. We will begin with Today in History, which is brought to us by the Associated Press. Today is Thursday, February 25th, the 56th day of 2021. There are 309 days left in the year. Today's highlight in history. On February 25th, 1986, President Ferdinand Marcos fled the Philippines after 20 years of rule in wake of a tainted election. Corazon Aquino assumed the presidency. On this date, in 1793, President George Washington held the first cabinet meeting on record at his Mount Vernon home. Attending were Secretary of State Thomas Jefferson, Treasury Secretary Alexander Hamilton, Secretary of War Henry Knox, and Attorney General Edmund Randolph. In 1901, United Steel Corporation was incorporated by J.P. Morgan. In 1913, the 16th Amendment to the United States Constitution, giving Congress the power to levy and collect income taxes, was declared in effect by Secretary of State Philander Chase Knox. In 1964, Muhammad Ali, then known as Cassius Clay, became world heavyweight boxing champion as he defeated Sonny Liston in Miami Beach. In 1983, playwright Tennessee Williams was found dead in his New York hotel suite. He was 71. In 1991, during the Persian Gulf War, 28 Americans were killed when an Iraqi Scud missile hit a U.S. barracks in Dhahran, Saudi Arabia. In 1994, American-born Jewish settler Baruch Goldstein opened fire with an automatic rifle inside the Tomb of the Patriarchs in the West Bank, killing 29 Muslims before he was beaten to death by worshippers. In 2018, China's official news agency said the country's ruling Communist Party had proposed scrapping term limits for China's president, appearing to lay the groundwork for Xi Jinping to rule as president beyond 2023. China's rubber-stamped lawmakers approved the change on March 11th. 10 years ago today, the Obama White House broke decades of tradition, naming Jeremy Bernard the first man to ever serve as social secretary in the female-dominated East Wing. 5 years ago, brawlings from the get-go, a fiery Marco Rubio went after Donald Trump during their Republican debate in Houston, lacerating the frontrunner's position on immigration, his privileged background, his speaking style, and more. Ted Cruz piled on too, questioning Trump's conservative credentials. And 1 year ago today, U.S. health officials warned that the coronavirus was certain to spread more widely in the United States. The Centers for Disease Control and Prevention urged Americans to be prepared. President Donald Trump, speaking in India, said the virus was, quote, very well under control in the U.S. Stock indexes in the U.S. added a second consecutive day of losses, falling more than 3%. And now to today's famous birthdays. We'll start with actor Anne McCree, who's 90 today. Former CBS newsman Bob Schaefer has turned 84. Actor Diane Baker is 83. Actor Karen Grassley is 79. Former talk show host Sally Jessy Raphael is also 79 today. Former professional wrestler Ric Flair is 72. Humorist Jack Handy has also turned 72. Movie director Neil Jordan is 71 today. Rock singer, musician, and actor John Doe of the band X has turned 68. Rock musician Dennis Dykin of the Smithereens is 64 today. Comedian Carrot Top has turned 56. Model and actor Veronica Webb is also 56 today. Actor Tia Leone is 55. Actor Leslie Boone is 53. And actor Sean Austin is 50 today. Latin singer Julio Iglesias Jr. is 48. R&B singer Justin Jeffrey has also turned 48 today. Comedian and actor Chelsea Handler has turned 46. Actor Rashida Jones is 45. Country singer Shauna Thompson of Thompson Square is 43 today. Actor Justin Bearfield is 35. Actor James and Oliver Phelps, who played the Weasley twins in the Harry Potter movies, have both turned 35 today. And finally, actor Jamal Jamil is also 35 today. And now we move on to our daily horoscope. We begin with Pisces, which is birth dates of February 20th to March 20th. Don't stop until you reach your goal. Use your intuition to navigate your way through any challenges you face. Trust in your ability to make things happen. For Aries, which is birth dates of March 21st to April 19th. Attending virtual meetings, connecting with people who have something to offer, and exploring new possibilities regarding your professional goals are favored. Trust your intuition. For Taurus, which is April 20th to May 20th birth dates. Don't put yourself at risk or do something that will make you look bad or taint your reputation. Look inward and make personal changes that will build confidence. For Gemini, which is birth dates of May 21st to June 20th. Observation is your best friend. Make corrections, be articulate, and show compassion. You will gain respect and ward off discord. Expand your interest. For Cancer, which is June 21st to July 22nd birth dates. Keep your plans secret until you have everything in place. Preparation will help you come out ahead. A personal or physical change will give you the boost you require to gain recognition. For Leo, which is birth dates of July 23rd to August 22nd. Don't jump to conclusions or make assumptions. Stand back and let situations play out naturally. Distance yourself from people trying to get you involved in questionable joint ventures. For Virgo, which is birth dates of August 23rd to September 22nd. Stick to what you know best and do best. Don't get involved in bureaucratic matters if you aren't prepared with facts to bring your claims. Concentrate on personal changes that will bring you peace of mind. For Libra, which is September 23rd to October 23rd birth dates. You're better off doing things on your own. Joint endeavors will lead to disappointment, arguments, and loss. Use your intelligence and charm to outmaneuver someone trying to push you in an unwise direction. For Scorpio, which is October 24th to November 22nd birth dates. Don't count on someone using emotional means to manipulate you. Avoid people who keep changing their minds. Build relationships with people who share your values. For Sagittarius, which is birth dates of November 23rd to December 21st. Look at your options and consider offers that can lead to a better professional position. Don't spend unnecessarily or expect others to pay your way. For Capricorn, which is December 22nd to January 19th birth dates, an unexpected offer will grab your attention. Before you take action, go over details diligently. Leave nothing to chance, and look for pitfalls that can lead to a disagreement or loss. And finally, we look to Aquarius, which is January 20th to February 19th birth dates. You'll be indecisive if you receive mixed messages. Question whatever you don't understand, and if you don't get a satisfactory explanation, walk away. And with that, we will now return to our headlines. We will move from the Acadiana area to headlines from across the state of Louisiana. And we begin with this. Utilities get scolding in wake of ice storm. Communication with customers criticized. And this is written by Mark Bellard. Louisiana regulators gave the state's utility companies passing grades for doing their bit to restore power after last week's historic ice storm and record cold. But the 5 elected Public Service Commission members gave no quarter to the stream of executives over their poor communication with customers. Entergy Louisiana President Philip May, whose company provides power to about half the state's consumers, apologized for the poor communication and promised to do better. Regulators responded by pointing out how much profits the privately owned utilities make. The commission met Wednesday over a Zoom call watched by about twice as many people as usually attends the commissioner's monthly meetings. The regulators had required executives from each of the privately owned utility companies and each of the rural cooperatives, which are owned by the customers buying the electricity, to detail their experiences during last week's polar vortex. The commission also heard from officials with the 2 regional transmission operations, which move power over several states from regions that have an excess to regions that need additional power. They were responsible for the blackouts that were needed to keep the entire electrical grid from a catastrophe that would have taken weeks to repair. But it was the lack of information sharing that really irked the regulators, each of whom noted in one way or another that they weren't satisfied with either of the reports they received or the utilities' communications with customers. Randy Pierce, the chief executive officer for DIMCO, said the co-op's Baton Rouge area call center did a fairly good job handling customer complaints during a storm that shut off power to 42,252 customers at its peak. Quote, "But we're analyzing and know we can do a better job," Pierce said. "Everyone needs to up their communication budgets for next time," responded Commissioner Mike Francis of Crowley. As the largest utility, Entergy Louisiana received the most criticism from customers and commissioners. Quote, "You're a multi-billion-dollar company with penny club customer service," Commission Chairman Greg Green of Baton Rouge told May. "If you prioritize person-to-person assistance as much as shareholder returns, you'd have A-plus customer service." Green said the company performed its technical functions well, particularly given the severity of the winter event. He gave Entergy an A or maybe even A-plus on that account. But in telling customers how long they would be without electricity, the grade dropped to a D-. Green said he received numerous calls from Entergy customers who reported the outage map was not working. They received false notification that they had power when they did not. The company asked if customers were sure they did not have power, or they received continued text to, quote, "conserve energy," despite having no electricity at all. Green read emails he received from people relating how frustrated they were last week. One constituent complained that after several failed calls, he finally reached an actual person, a call center employee in Oklahoma, and was told that the Energy employee had no information about the situation in Baton Rouge. Quote, "We did not meet customer expectations," May said, as far as providing adequate information during last week's storm that knocked offline about 130,000 of Energy's roughly 1 million customers statewide. May said that the company's call centers in West Monroe, Jackson, Mississippi, Tulsa, Oklahoma, and elsewhere were affected by the storm. Starting February 15th, about 25% of the call center staffers couldn't get to work, and 23% were still out on February 18th. In addition to absent staffers, the storm also caused problems with communication equipment owned by Energy and fiber optics run by contractors. Quote, "We apologize for the inconvenience, and we will endeavor to improve," May said. "People understand when the lights go out," Green responded. Homeowners made it clear that their anger was with a giant company who dedicated insufficient resources towards giving them accurate, helpful answers. Louisiana residents are resilient, but they need to be able to prepare. But when they are not given useful information, people cannot make good decisions. The chairman also said, quote, "Our job is to make sure Entergy sees the residents they serve and their redistribution grid maintenance as important as their rate of return, earnings, profits, and stock price." Quote, "Y'all going to have to eat some of this," said Commissioner Foster Campbell of Bossier Parish, suggesting that Entergy's shareholders should pick up some of the cost of the storm, particularly given the Wall Street traded corporation makes a 9.8% profit. Campbell long has criticized utilities and his fellow commissioners for allowing utilities to collect too much profit, pointing out that with interest rates at 1 to 2 to 3%, the corporations are earning far above their cost of doing business. A privately owned utility, because it operates as a monopoly in a given service area, it is allowed by the state to recoup its cost of making and distributing electricity, along with what is called a, quote, return on equity. The return on equity is a sliding scale based on achieving performance standards set by the Commission. It is baked into the rate structure, thereby guaranteeing a profit for the utility's shareholders. Utilities also are allowed to be repaid by their customers for their cost of restoring power after a storm. Quote, "Something has to give," Campbell said. Our next state headline, which reads, quote, "Putting it in their hands. Local bodies to have final say on marathon oil incentives." And this is written by Kristen Mosbrooker. A controversial property tax exemption for the Marathon Petroleum Oil Refinery in St. John the Baptist Parish is being left up to local government bodies coming out of a Wednesday meeting by a state board. The parish council, sheriff's office, and school board in St. John have 90 days to decide whether to approve the incentives. An unusual agreement approved by the state board, each could either approve, deny, or ignore the tax exemption request individually. The agreement does not require all three to reach the same conclusion. If no action is taken, Marathon would not get the property tax exemption it's seeking. The Louisiana Board of Commerce and Industry had deferred a decision on the tax breaks at a November meeting after complaints by Together Louisiana, a faith-based activist organization that has railed against the state's industrial tax exemption program for years. The organization claimed that Marathon doctored an old application to get the Commerce Board to approve tax breaks on a more recent project under older, more lax state rules. Those rules would provide a 100% tax exemption over 10 years for the refinery project in Garyville. New state rules implemented in 2016 cap the exemptions at 80% over 2 5-year periods and give local taxing bodies, parishes, sheriff's departments, and school boards a say in whether such tax exemptions are granted. Ohio-based Marathon agreed at Wednesday's Commerce Board meeting to honor local decisions on whether it should receive a 100%, 80%, or zero tax exemption on $275 million installation of coker drums used in refining oil that began on January 1st, 2018. A 10-year, 100% tax break would be worth $43 million to Marathon. Together, Louisiana in 2017 downloaded a copy of the Louisiana Economic Development Department's entire database of applications for tax breaks. As the activists looked over November's Commerce Board agenda, they checked the older list of projects. The activists found that the $275 million coker drum installation listed under the same project number as an older $386 million project to install a natural gas line hydrotreater at the refinery predating the 2016 rules change. Tying the newer coker drum project to the older application meant the company would be eligible for up to 100% property tax abatement rather than the 80% tax break implemented in 2016. Quote, "This reflects clear intent to have the 100% and the no local approval process," said Broderick Baggard of Together Louisiana. "We find it kind of astonishing these are even being contemplated for approval." Louisiana Economic Development confirmed that the company requested access to change the advance notice project description in 2018, which was approved, but the agency was not aware of the extent of the changes. Marathon official Dan Wortman said the original project scope was changed significantly in 2018 because the $386 million project was no longer financially viable after sitting on the shelf for several years. Quote, "The economics dried up on it," Wortman said. It was downsized to the $275 million project for which the company is now seeking tax breaks. Marathon suggested that if the board would vote in favor of its application, the company would honor whatever local decisions are made. Quote, "We're putting it in their hands," he said. If local government entities fail to take action within 90 days, there is no exemption, said Gerald Jones, chairman of the Board of Commerce and Industry. Leaders in St. John the Baptist Parish previously voted down $25 million in property tax abatements in January 2020 for separate Marathon refinery work. But the documentation was not received by the state. The Board of Commerce and Industry then denied an appeal by the St. John the Baptist Council to uphold the local tax break rejection. The local school board also voted down the Marathon tax exemption, but all the paperwork was submitted late to the state, and the default action was that incentives get approved. Marathon, the largest property taxpayer in the parish at $20 million a year, didn't oppose the local government's appeal last year. Former St. John the Baptist Parish Council member Larry Surapura requested the Commerce Board not vote on the Marathon deal Wednesday before local officials could review the situation. Marathon's Garyville refinery has more than 900 employees and refines about 564,000 barrels of crude oil each year. And now, we will move to our last headline of the day, which comes from the world of sports. And it reads, "Ready to shine. Armed with newfound confidence, sophomore pitcher Arrighetti has bright future with Ragin' Cajuns." And this is written by Kevin Foote. After Spencer Arrighetti's debut for the UL Ragin' Cajuns in Tuesday's 2-0 win over Louisiana Tech, There are several groups that would find it hard to believe he ever lacked confidence. UL's excited fan base couldn't imagine the sophomore right-hander ever doubting his ability after watching him take a no-hitter into the 7th inning of his first Division I start with the Cajuns. Moreover, the Bulldogs' batting order would find it hard to believe Arrighetti ever questioning whether he had a future in college baseball after striking out 9 and only walking 1 in the dominating performance. And yet, Arrighetti detailed the truth of the winding road he's taken in baseball since leaving Simcoe Ranch High in Katy, Texas for TCU 3 years ago after his sparkling outing. Quote, "I realized I just didn't fit in there very well," Arrighetti said. "I also think I wasn't necessarily ready at the D1 level at the time. I was having confidence issues, just like a lot of mental stuff. The ability was there, I think. I just don't think I was ready yet." Arrighetti had made 16 appearances at TCU, including 1 start. He was 2-0 with a 9.00 ERA, giving up 24 hits, 11 walks, and striking out 19 in 17 innings. Suddenly, the first-team All-State pitcher and second-team perfect-game All-American was at a crossroads in his baseball career. Quote, "I took a step back and realized if I really wanted to go somewhere in baseball, that I was going to have to find somewhere where I could get better for a year, and more importantly, work on my mentality and work on all the things around the game that aren't necessarily the game," Arrighetti said. The 6'2", 186-pounder found that place at Navarro Junior College. Quote, "Really for me, the year at Navarro in Corsicana was a year to figure out who I really was as a baseball player, and what I really wanted to do at this game," he said. "I happened to have an amazing staff there as well, people who really showed me the game can be fun. And that's what I was missing for the most part at TCU. I wasn't enjoying it." Brett Doe, the assistant coach at Navarro, that guy gave me new life to my career. In 4 starts at Navarro before the coronavirus shutdown, he enjoyed some success at 2-2 with a 4.26 ERA. Obviously, the Cajun staff saw something in him. Quote, "We knew he had power stuff," UL coach Matt Diggs said. Like a true Cajun even before arriving in Lafayette, Arrighetti, quote, "worked while I waited during the long pandemic break and then got to play some summer ball. I think all that was added to the confidence I feel here," he said. By the time he arrived in Cajun country, the Cajuns no longer saw a pitching battle himself. UL fans actually saw an exuberant pitcher with a long, flowing hair jumping around the field and high-fiving teammates, seemingly having the time of his life. Quote, "I would say it's a little bit of both," Arrighetti said when asked if the fans inspired his high-energy approach. "Even bigger than that, I'd say that side of me feeds off of the energy from my boys in the dugout. They were bringing it tonight, and I was feeling it. I think half of the battle is exuding confidence, like telling the hitter it's over because they stepped into the box. That's kind of me, I guess." His coaches and teammates have seen it since the fall season. Quote, "We've watched him pitch against us just the way he did tonight," Degg said. "When he gets the quick tempo and that intensity going and he's out 4 pitches, then he's throwing for strikes. It's like a snowball going downhill. There's not much you can do about it." Consequently, Deggs isn't shocked he may have to make a decision real soon on Arrighetti's status on UL staff. Notice he wore jersey number 32 in Tuesday's gym. The same number last year's ace Brandon Young wore prior to signing with the Baltimore Orioles during the offseason. Young was 3-0 with a 1.09 ERA with 37 strikeouts in 24.2 innings last season. Young began as a midweek starter, then quickly went from Sunday to Saturday and ended up on Friday when the season was canceled. Quote, "It's no accident that I put Spencer Arrighetti in Brandon Young's number 32, Degg said. So we've got big plans for him. He just needs to continue to keep his head down, work, and be ready when called upon." Finally, Arrighetti is blown away by the comparison. Quote, "I watched Brandon last season after I committed," he admitted. "That guy is electric. I look up to him in a lot of ways. To me, it was just a number. Then I kind of realized a little that maybe they see a little bit of me in him. I would love to think there's a little bit of me in him because that guy is incredible. What he did here last year was amazing. I would love to come close to that this year. Now, Arangeti's future looks bright as his newfound confidence teams with even more expertise from UL's coaching staff. Quote, "Now that I'm here, it's been the same kind of drive I felt my freshman year. The same kind of drive to compete that I now feel 100 times more prepared," he said. "The staff we have here now is incredible. The fans are incredible. I have never felt more accepted, more welcomed, more loved by a team in my life. It's an incredible group of guys we have here." And now, before we close our program for the morning, we will take a look at the funerals today in the Acadiana area. We'll begin with Richard Knight, with services at the Geezy Ferguson Funeral Home at 10 a.m. Next is Carol Menard, with services at St. Elizabeth Seton Catholic Church in Lafayette at 1 p.m. We have Sherwood Ransom, with service at Fountain Memorial Funeral Home, located at 1010 Pandora Street in Lafayette at 2 p.m. And finally, Ruby Thibodeau, with services at St. Nicholas Catholic Church, located at 7809 Weeks Island Road in Lydia at 2 p.m. And with that, this has been Local News Live for February 25th, 2021. And I've been your reader, Daniel Rayburn. Join us at 9 a.m. Monday through Friday on AOC 1, Cypress Street Radio, or the AOC Community Media YouTube channel. You can read these stories and more at theadvocate.com and find out how to volunteer and more at aocinc.org. Thank you very much for joining us this morning. I hope you'll join us again tomorrow. And have a great day, Acadiana.